Welcome to another episode of Behind the Scenes at Level 1 Restoration. Today we've got a 1973 Trans Am 455 Super Duty. This is a survivor car. One of the things that we do a lot here at Level 1 Restoration, we take in these survivor cars and we do preservation work to them. So that can mean anything from paint correction to maybe putting on a correct heater hose or a belt or something like that. Whatever the car is lacking, we'll attend to that as a survivor. So in that case, we wouldn't put just some brand new off of the shelf part on there. We would go out and seek out a new old stock or a takeoff original part from a car. The main thing we did to this car is we used our dry ice preservation system, completely undercoated, which is very typical for a car from this period of time. And what we've done to show how great of a car that this car is, we removed that undercoating, which was probably done by an outside company after it left the dealer. And we removed all that. So it was just old black and ugly looking on the underneath of this car. And you'll see that we turned this into almost an assembly line fresh looking undercarriage on this car. Some of the other things that we'll do on this particular car, we'll rejuvenate the paint. We've just done a clean on it up to this point right now. But we'll get some good revitalizing product and give it a very light polish. If we could find it, because this is a low mile car, I'll be searching for new old stock tires. But of course, we will at least put on reproduction tires so it looks correct. And it's missing its trim rings right now. Those are pretty easy to find. Original and new old stock, if you don't know, just means a new part that is old stock. So it's been around literally since the 1970s, sitting on a shelf somewhere. So this car, very special car, 73 Brewster Green Super Duty Trans Am. This particular car is an automatic. It has air conditioning. It has the tan interior. And we're going to show you a few examples of what this paint measures with a mill gauge, which is really an important thing in establishing the authenticity of a survivor. This basically measures the distance between the surface and the metal underneath of here. And that I had measured it already. It's going to measure 3.0, 2.9 in that case. That's the thickness, that's the mill thickness here. And that's a clear indication that that's original paint on this car. You would normally see a repainted car would start somewhere around 5 and go all the way up into the 20s if it had a lot of primer or work under it. So you can just move around on the surface of a car. 3.1, same 3.1. If we come down here to the quarter panel, you're probably going to have a slightly different reading. 2.0. So basically that's an indication of there is going to be more paint on the top surfaces of this car than on the bottom. And if I come down here to the back of the car, and this might be a place where there was rust repair done on a car that you might be suspicious of, but 2.8 on this car, clearly original paint. All right, looking under the hood of this 73 Super Duty Trans Am, we can see that it just needs a good thorough cleaning. Everything in here really is nicely in place. This original tube here for the air ducting to the air cleaner is hanging on for dear life. So when this engine compartment gets detailed, we'll just carefully remove that and set that aside. Over here on the alternator, you can see a factory ink stamp there, so we'll be careful in the cleaning not to damage any of that. We'll preserve any markings that we can. So common that it's had the master cylinder replaced. Any car that sits and has been around since 1973, that is something that the seals go bad in and gets replaced. It's too bad people don't keep them. You can go and buy a reproduction, take the parts out of it and put it in the original master cylinder is really a much better way to go to preserve authenticity. On this car, you can see these Super Duties have that special label on the valve cover. telling about the engine. That's kind of like the tune label. And well, this car is just clearly in need of a deep cleaning, but very, very original under the hood. Okay, looking into the trunk of this car, clearly the original, highly sought after trunk mat. The reproductions really aren't quite right. So an original trunk mat for one of these cars is pretty special. This one has a replacement tire, I would say, in the trunk. There's some clear evidence of wear on the jack base and the wheel itself, but that's the correct type of tire that this car ought to have on it. So that's a pretty good spare for this car. A lot of the rest of the parts and pieces here, the trunk weather seal, the jacking instructions, that's all original to this car, as you would expect it to be. The spoiler mounting hardware, looks like someone turned that one out at one time. That's all clearly original and untouched. And coming down here, this is always a nice treat. This car has its probably its original dealer tag on there, and a McNamara of Port Jefferson. And I'm going to have to look at the paperwork and find out where that is. All right, taking a look inside the trunk of this Trans Am, we found what appears to be the original spark plug wires. This spark plug wire is a Packard TVR suppression spark plug wire. It has a date of the second quarter of 1973. So this is clearly this car's original spark plug wires. And maybe one of them failed, or maybe someone just thought it was a good idea to change them. I can test these wires, and if these all test out and they function, I would put these back on the car, which is really just making the car that much more original. However, if one of them didn't test well, I would probably leave them off and we could go with reproductions, or maybe I could find a pair of original spark plug wires. This car would definitely be worthy of that level of detail.